The views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of any entities that they represent. This program is intended for educational purposes. Radio Azim Premji University.
It's 13th of August 1947 in Bhopal. The 34-year-old woman walks into the room. Her father sat lonely, showered in sweat. He asked her to sit down. She refused. He pulled out a revolver and pointed it at her. "I'm leaving soon for Pakistan," he said. "I want you to take over the affairs of the state." "Do you accept?" the Nawab asked. The defiant daughter said, "Why don't you pull the trigger?" She said she shall not be a party to its merger in the Indian Union. If the Nawab thought he could get his daughter to do the humiliating task of giving up Bhopal to a democratic India, his calculations were wrong. Because Abida Sultan was in yet another young woman brought up, protected in a palace. She was a single mother, a rebellious princess, a woman capable of tough decisions, and had grown up in the glorious traditions of a royal family where 4 women had been rulers. It was the most unlikely way of someone passing on the baton of his princely state to the potential successor. His plan wouldn't work, not just because the daughter refused, but also because Mountbatten advised him against it. We are talking about the Nawab of Bhopal, Hamidullah Khan, the leading voice and advocate of independence for princely states, and his daughter, Abida Sultan, a single mother who would in future move to Pakistan and have a sterling public career with the government of Pakistan. We must understand why Nawab of Bhopal was in such frenzy as independence came close for India. The Nawab could have been a very important official in the government of Pakistan. Bhopal could have ended up being another East Pakistan. All of it were possibilities in that summer of 1947. Hello, my name is Josy Joseph. Welcome to my podcast, The India Project.
At the stroke of the midnight hour, when the world sleeps, India will awake to life and freedom.
Episode 4, State of Bhopal.
On the 7th of August, Viceroy Khan, Nawab's advisor, writes to VP Menon, seeking several clarifications regarding the instrument of accession, regarding the future relationship between Bhopal and the dominion of India, and on a host of other matters.
Dear Mr. Menon, as you will appreciate, His Highness of Bhopal is at the moment devoting his most earnest and anxious considerations to the terms on which the accession of the state of Bhopal is desired to the dominion of India, so as to enable him to come to a decision on this crucial question.
It includes questions like that it is understood that the proposed instrument of accession would operate only during the transition period until the Constitution of India is approved. Viceroy Khan says Bhopal would like to establish
trade relations with, and if necessary, appoint a trade commissioner in and make a treaty or agreement with regard to air communications with Pakistan through the approval.
And Bhopal would also like to have air communications with Pakistan. If you go over the list of clarifications, it's very clear that Bhopal is really pushing hard against the dominion of India. He wants local telephone systems to be excluded from those coming under the dominion's powers.
Explained that telephones meant trunk telephones and that local telephone systems within the state were not included.
He wants autonomy for use of aerodromes and air travel within Bhopal.
And that if it was desired to put down a new aerodrome, land would be acquired with the consent of the ruler, and that it was not proposed to take over existing aerodromes.
He wants the state police to be protecting the railway lines within Bhopal. And it also wants the Dominion to give an undertaking that
An assurance was given that, apart from the subjects with regard to whom the state was asked to accede, there would be no interference of any kind whatsoever in state affairs.
and this obligation would be reciprocal.
Zafarullah Khan.
C.C. Desai, who receives the clarifications from Khan on the file, is not amused at all. And in an internal noting for both V.P. Menon and Patel, he is quite dismissive of the demands put forward by Bhopal. So among the demands of Bhopal is that if it finds a future constitution of India unacceptable, it should be free to revert back to its position of being an independent princely state, and that the new India would not assert its paramountcy or the right over the state. Desai is quite dismissive of it. He says it implies that the crown representative is providing a guarantee that Indian state has to respect in the future. And he says crown representative cannot even come to the rescue of Bhopal because Bhopal, being in the heart of India, would be very isolated. And the power to decide what to do with Bhopal and what should be done between India and Bhopal is a weapon that India must exercise. Based on the internal consultations within the States Department, finally on the 12th of August, C.C. Desai sends a formal note to Zafarullah Khan. It's a very diplomatically worded but firm letter. He says,
with reference to items 1 and 2 under defense set out in the schedule to the instrument of accession, it was understood that no Dominion canton,
if the Dominion is primarily responsible for the defense of the country as a whole, then it must have the right to move troops according to military exigencies. Dominion could agree that no cantonment or establishment should be stationed in a state without the consent of the local ruler.
in peacetime. But we cannot, for obvious reasons, agree to the necessity for such consent during war. The proposal can be agreed on to the understanding that the Trade Commissioner would work as part and parcel of the office.
Trade Commissioner, he says it's okay as long as he works as part and parcel of the office of the Dominion.
It is expected that the activities will be confined to trade and commerce and that
he will not indulge in any diplomacy or politics.
A trade commissioner should be asked for only when there is work for him.
About subversive activities, he says, yeah, of course, the Dominion is as much interested in dealing with subversive activities. But he says it's something that must be left to cooperative action between the state and the Dominion in light of actual circumstances.
But I can assure you that the Dominion government is as much interested in dealing with the subversive activities as the states.
Which means that, for example, there was obviously a very strong movement within Bhopal, like in most princely states, for responsible government. And if the members of that responsible government or that movement are in Delhi or outside Bhopal, Indian Dominion is not going to go and crack down on them or arrest them because these are Gandhians and, all-time warriors who are fighting for responsible government.
No assurance can be given that the Dominion government will necessarily continue the standstill arrangements in respect of non-acceding states after August 15th. This letter is intended merely as providing a clarification.
It's no more a sophisticated chessboard move that's happening. It's a final, desperate actions from two ends. One, a ruler who is looking at a dark future of losing all the power and glory and influence. On the other side, a group of people who are trying to put together probably the world's greatest experiment in democracy. This is going to get worse as the countdown towards August 15th gets closer.
Coming up on the other side of the break,
he has been advocate and admirer of the idea of Pakistan.
A Hindu prince would have been far more useful, but there was no one to be found amongst that lot who would look after the interests of Pakistan.
But to get the entire world to agree on this one thing in the time that it was, when zero actually was shaped up, I cannot get my head around the fact that everyone just agreed.
It took centuries to have this transition.
Unlike place value system, where there were at least 4 different civilizations that sort of said, hey, this is one way.
It was just us.
Wow, it was just us who said, hey, let there be nothing also in the scheme of things. Before you get to something, many things, let's start with nothing. That's amazing.
It's a math world with Divakar. Coming soon only on Radio Azim Premji University.
For several years before that, the Nawab of Bhopal has been a leading advocate and admirer of the idea of Pakistan. This he revealed in several occasions, but now that we read his actions with archives of Jinnah and others, it's clear that he has been a leading advocate for state of Pakistan. In the summer of 1947, when the Nawab had recently just bought an aircraft, he also makes 2 other significant investments. These are 2 houses in Karachi. One for an office and the other for his personal use. And about the Karachi houses, Nawab also says that he must have a place in Pakistan where his women folk could take shelter should things get really hot in Bhopal. So Nawab, all through the months running up to independence, Nawab is an active part of Jinnah's strategies. On one occasion, in one of his letters, the Nawab reveals to Jinnah that he really had to work hard to ensure that just 12 of the 93 representatives of the princely states joined the Constituent Assembly in April.
Without any intention of blowing my own trumpet, I succeeded in this effort on the 29th of March, when, as a result of incessant toil and sweat involving days and nights of hard and continuous work, only 12 representatives out of 93 from the vast majority of Hindu states joined the Constituent Assembly in April last. The task was done as far as the Indian India was concerned, but the revolt started.
On another occasion, Nawab reveals that his resignation as a Chancellor of the Chamber of Princes was done with Jinnah's consent immediately after it was clear that Pakistan would be a separate dominion.
Pakistan was created on the 3rd June, and I had no further interest as far as the states were concerned. I would have resigned the chancellorship in April and would also have abdicated, but for the advice given by certain respected friends to not be in a hurry. I resigned the chancellorship with your consent as soon as Pakistan was established on the 4th of June.
Nawab's deep association with the idea of Pakistan is also revealed in detail in yet another letter that he wrote to Jinnah on August 2nd, as he was making his final desperate efforts to remain independent. He wrote to Jinnah in a secret note ahead of a meeting between the two that day at 6 p.m. The Nawab talks about communalism to Jinnah.
Since then, I have, in my individual capacity, tried to maintain and preserve the independence of the Muslim states, including Bhopal. In that work, I have received no support from the Hindu states. I did not expect it. Communalism had entered the minds of the Hindu princes with a vengeance. They suspected me and showed no confidence in me. A Hindu prince would have been far more useful, but there was no one to be found amongst that lot who would look after the interests of Pakistan.
But in the letter, he singles out one person.
And the one friend we had,
in bracket Sir CP,
has also now been lost
because of the attack.
Bhopal stands alone with an 80% Hindu majority in the midst of Hindu India, surrounded by my personal enemies as well as by the enemies of Islam. Pakistan has no means of helping us. You rightly made this plain to me last night. I myself will not be a party to any attempts on the part of states to drag Pakistan into a conflict on their behalf. It would be wrong to expect anything more than moral support from you. England has already betrayed the states, and I, for one, am not prepared to beg at the door of Great Britain. Situated as we are, we shall be coerced and intimidated.
Nawab also had a clear idea about what would happen if he were to declare independence. He admitted that
We shall be cut off from all essential supplies: coal, iron, kerosene, petrol, machinery, air services, arms and ammunitions, etc.
and he admits that they, meaning New Delhi, is already threatening to give him no standstill agreements if Bhopal keeps out.
This is how the situation stands. It is not a question of cold feet or fear. I am prepared to stand, but would like to be clear as to what will be our ultimate object.
And then he asked Jinnah that what was their ultimate goal and how far will Pakistan be able to help them and stand by them. What would be the terms of a treaties, accession or other engagements with Pakistan, and how will they be implemented?
I am in no case prepared to sign the instrument of accession and join Hindustan. If that must be done, it would only be done by my successors. My own personal wish is to abdicate and to serve Islam. I am prepared to serve Pakistan in any capacity. I should, therefore, like to know how I should be employed by you and in what capacity. If you have no use for me, or if my presence in Pakistan and my association with you is to be of the least embarrassment to you, I should also like to know this now.
He points out that Jinnah has always pointed out that Nawab was welcome in Pakistan, but always spoke in general terms.
Now that my fate is to be decided in the next few days, I would like to get some specific indication in this matter from you. Yours very sincerely, Hamidullah.
There were many reasons why the Nawab of Bhopal was getting more and more aggressive in August. One of the reasons could well be that he had managed to swing the ruler of Jodhpur to meet Jinnah. It's interesting that the ruler of Jodhpur agreed to meet Jinnah after he had closed his negotiations with both Patel and Mountbatten. I think it's probably August 10th when Jodhpur Maharaja, who had left Delhi after agreeing to everything that Patel and Viceroy said, he returned. And on the 10th when he returns, there is dramatic moments happening. The Nawab of Bhopal sends 2 cars to both the airfields of Delhi. One which is now called the Indira Gandhi International Airport, and the other one which was then called the Wellington Airport, now called the Safdarjung Airport. He just wanted to ensure that the Maharaja is with him. Mountbatten later said that probably Nawab was holding the Jodhpur ruler as a prisoner in his house. Whatever it is, the Jodhpur ruler meets Jinnah, and Jinnah is famously, as you know, said to have told the Jodhpur ruler, "Here is my fountain pen, write your terms and I will sign it." If Jodhpur were to wean away from the dominion of India, it opens up yet another new front for strengthening Pakistan and weakening Indian dominion. That also may well have played to the stronger position that Nawab was increasingly taking. In the second week of August, even as Nawab is able to pull out Jodhpur, he is able to hold on to Indore and is strengthening the pro-Pakistani forces and challenging the Indian dominion, there is a very noticeable silence from Jinnah. The Nawab has been wanting Jinnah to spell out what exactly would he offer the Nawab in Pakistan. The silence is troubling. On the other side, the Indian States Department is getting more and more aggressive. Mountbatten is increasingly clear that he will not do anything that will offend the Indian dominion. And by the very fate of geography, Bhopal is trapped in the middle of India. And all that is like disaster crowding upon an agitated brain. And that is how the Nawab ends up pulling the revolver on his daughter. But that's not the end of the story. In the last 2-3 days of British Empire in India, the Nawab will make further desperate moves.
That was episode 4, State of Bhopal. On the next episode.
When you hear complaints by people from Northeast about how the region is neglected by the mainland, how we know so little about it, it almost sounds as if they are speaking from 1947. Sir Muhammad Saleh Akbar Haidari, many of you would know his family because I think one of his granddaughters is a Bollywood actress. So in the last week of June, Haidari joins hands with Posi, who is the tax collector of the Nagas and trusted by them, to broker a deal with the NNC.
Radio Azim Premji University.